First of all, happy Black History Month, which is American history. There's a sign back there that says Doge actually means dangerous oligarchs grab everything. Well, ain't that the truth? I am so tired of these billionaire boys and their grubby little hands grabbing at everything. Hands off our bodies, hands off our data, hands off our tax refunds, hands off our Social Security checks, hands off our Constitution, hands off our democracy, hands off. As a proud member of the Committee on Oversight, I'm here for some real-time congressional oversight. And you are a beautiful sight to see, and you prove that the power of the people has always been greater than the people in power.
What's up, family? As always, we're having a conversation. We got to break down this whole mess with bald-head socialist Ayanna Pressley, right? Yeah, that Ayanna, part of the so-called squad in Congress, the crew that's always yelling tax the rich, fight the system, power to the people. Yeah, her. Now, she's under the spotlight just like Ilhan Omar, and it's looking like being a member of Congress then turned into a whole get quick rich scheme. Like, you can walk in there broke as hell, like literally negative net worth, meaning you owe more money than you actually have, and somehow come out a few years later sitting on millions. Like, stop playing with me, because the math is not math. And look, Congress don't even pay that much. It pays decent, sure, about $174,000 a year. But that ain't no I just hit the lotto type of money. That's comfortable living money, but not I suddenly own a Martha's Vineyard vacation and got 8 million in assets money. So people naturally like, oh, how is that, Sway? How did you pull that off? And the answer low-key is right in our faces. See, this is the part where the hypocrisy starts jumping out, because while she out here screaming tax to billionaires and pretending to be for the little guys, she's moving just like the same elites she claimed to hate. Like, it's given very much oligarch light or oligarch elite type of energy. And look, I ain't just throwing accusations. I'm talking about real stuff, because she out here allegedly stacking wealth through moves that mirror exactly what rich people do. But she'll throw on that activist tone to make it seem like she's different. Meanwhile, she's buying up property, securing government hookups, and pulling political strings to eat off the same system she's protesting. For example, Shorty got a vacation home in Martha's Vineyard. That's not the hood. That's not the ghetto. That's not the struggle. That's where rich people go to sip wine barefoot and forget poor folks exist. And then to top it off, she's apparently getting sweet government contracts. Not from some Republican dude in a suit, but from another so-called progressive, Mayor Michelle Wu over there in Boston. Like, that's homegirl to homegirl socialism, apparently. So she also collecting rent as a landlord, which wouldn't be that crazy if she didn't also get on TV yelling cancel rent. So how that work? You taking people's rent money with one hand and then telling the world we should cancel rent with the other. That's not socialism. That's straight up scam behavior. That's like a vegan running a barbecue joint on the weekends, and the message ain't matching the method, fam. So yeah, this ain't just about money. It's about the mask slipping. People voted for her thinking she was for the people, but it's starting to look like she was for herself this whole time. Same playbook like Ilhan Omar. Same script, different name. And this ain't politics. This is financial gymnastics. They go in broke and come out moguls, right? Moguls, they hit the lottery, and somehow we're supposed to believe it's all clean money. Man, you can miss me with that. Check this out.
Household ends up cashing the rent checks, and your husband ends up getting a massive slice of a city mega deal. That's not some like clever late night tweet here. That's the reality of what's happening. And today I'm going to, let's say, untangle what I'd like to call the Ayanna Pressley paradox, which is a massive gap between her front-facing brand and her back-facing balance sheet. And I think by the end of this video, you'll see why this isn't really a story just about housing. It's a story about hypocrisy, the H word. Yes. So let's start with this. Let's start at the heart of the web here and what's going on, because we have a sitting member of Congress. Their spouse ends up winning the development roster for public land in her own district. So it doesn't look good. Both things could be true at once here. The process was technically fair, but the perception, it just is not a good look. Which means the, let's say, political question isn't just illegal, it's, is this credible, right? You know, if your brand is public land for public good, you'd better build some level of a firewall high enough to block any suspicion of self-dealing here. Because even if this is legitimate, even if it's a legitimate bid, you know, by the paperwork, it's the optics that are, let's just call them radioactive, right? People in Roxbury already complained. They got their voices basically drowned out in development decisions here. And when they see a congresswoman, their husband, benefiting from a project within their own district, it doesn't really take a law degree to guess what they'll think next. Okay? It doesn't. The fix was in. That's what most people are more than likely thinking. Remember back in 2020, 2021 during COVID, you know, the pandemic had millions of people struggling to pay their mortgages, to pay their rent. And Ayanna Pressley co-led the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. And this was very, very bold legislation that would have forgiven rent and mortgage payments outright while creating there was a relief fund on the back end. So landlords, they wouldn't eat those losses, okay? I don't think she's ever said that in one of her ridiculous speeches, but that's the way that it goes. You know, she said that housing is a human right and that no one should have to choose between groceries and rent. I agree with that. And we needed systematic relief. Now, the rhetoric here was purely like ridiculous, okay, with tenants, especially black and brown renters bearing the brunt of COVID's economic wreckage. But while she was preaching that gospel, her own disclosures were preaching another story because her household was collecting rent. And on top of that, you're preaching to cancel rent, but you're also not preaching on the back end that you're going to get guaranteed rent from the government, okay? So they had a Mattapan property pulling between $50,000 and $100,000 in just a few years as a rental. Then they had two more Boston units bringing in 15 to, I forget how much exactly, but they were bringing in a lot of money. And then they ended up selling a condo in Florida and generating this massive portfolio that has steady cash flow. Cancel Rent for America, cash rent at home. That's basically what it is. And when you build your political brand on being the voice of the tenant class, the contradictions aren't just awkward, they're absolutely lethal. This is hypocrisy 101. That is the absolute truth. Because you could even take a look at the Martha's Vineyard property, okay? This home was valued for over $1 million, okay? Over $1 million. And I believe this is either a vacation home / Airbnb or rental for them. And she hasn't just attacked landlords in some abstract way. She's gone again after institutional investors, corporate landlords, these Wall Street firms, accusing them of gobbling up homes with cash, leveraging their debt, and driving up prices that push families out. But when you crack these things open, her own filings are doing the exact same thing. The same leverage strategies that the people that she's condemning, they are using. Specifically, at least based on tax records, her husband is using, okay? This is the same level of financial engineering that she is criticizing. So, for instance, instead of putting like 20 or 25% down, like most investors have to, they've used 5% down payment loans. They've used FHA renovation loans that actually exceeded the purchase price of the foreclosure that they bought. That one was specific, I believe, in Mattapan. And they refinanced their vacation home in Martha's Martha's Vineyard to extract even more equity out. So in plain English, they figured out how to play Monopoly with the house money.
And there you have it, folks. And it's just more of the same standard procedure when you're dealing with these so-called progressives who are out here yelling about the system, but living real cozy off that same system. And I'm talking about these socialist hypocrites, bro. Like, look at this mess. As you guys can see, it says lefty, and this is the New York Post. It says lefty representative Ayanna Pressley, who once camped out on the Capitol steps for taxpayer-funded rent relief, reaped a windfall as a Boston landlord last year, the Post has learned. Pressley, a Democrat in Massachusetts, I believe, and her ex-con hubby, management consultant Conan Harris, raked in up to a staggering $350,000 in profit last year from a property sale and rental income that includes a decidedly capitalist pad on Martha's Vineyard. Presley's 2024 annual financial disclosures reveal financial disclosures show Presley, who disclosed as much as $8 million in assets the first time she's declared over $1 million, now joins squad comrade Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota, in the Millionaires Club, a far cry from the working class warrior image she tries to project. And there you have it, hypocrite ballhead Ayanna Hypocritical Pressley. So, like I was saying, they got a lot of smoke for everybody else, but when it's time to apply them same rules to themselves, suddenly they blind. Now, take Ayanna Pressley, like, for example, out here on the mic sounding like she's, I don't know, G. Gavora in a pantsuit talking about down with capitalism and the working class deserves better. But behind the scenes, shorty moving like a whole Wall Street banker. She might not be flipping stocks, but she definitely flipping taxpayer money. She ain't just balling off of her Congress salary, is my point. No. She and her husband are allegedly eating good off of the government's money. That's your money. That's my money. It's like they got a little family hustle going on. Her husband just so happens to be getting contracts in her district. I mean, come on, man. We grown here. We know what that is. You mean to tell me out of all the contracts in the city, her man just magically landed the bag right where she holds political power? Man, stop playing. That's like being a referee and passing the ball to your cousin every single time. So yeah, they stacking wealth by playing anti-wealth activists in public. And that's what makes it greasy. They out here doing exact same stuff they tell us is evil. And she dragging landlords through the mud talking about housing is a human right. And we need to cancel rent. Meanwhile, she's collecting rent checks like the rest of them. Big real estate energy. She got properties in Martha's Vineyard, you heard. And that's not no broke person vacation spot. That's the same island the Obamas chill on. But somehow, while she's telling everybody else to stop hoarding wealth, she out here hoarding assets. Like, how do you preach? How you preaching about eating the rich while you cooking dinner at the rich people's table? And let's talk about the pandemic real quick. When the world was shut down and the landlords were getting crucified for trying to survive, she ain't cancel her rent. Nah, them checks kept coming in. The same way she was pointing fingers at the landlords trying to feed their family. She was out there playing Monopoly in real life. So now the question becomes, how the hell did she come from dead broke to sitting on millions? Before she stepped foot in Congress, her net worth was in the red, negative, less than zero. And now she got beachfront assets. She got political connections feeding her family money. And somehow we supposed to believe this all happened organically. Like it's just a coincidence. Nah, this ain't adding up. So yeah, folks got questions. Not even on some political hate, just off of common sense. Because if you're going to scream like a revolutionary, don't live like a CEO. Don't tell people to sacrifice while you stacking quiet. So let's really talk about it. So with that being said, let's break this whole thing down piece by piece.
This is a Fox News alert. It looks like Ilhan Omar isn't the only millionaire squad member. Now, our team dug into open secrets and financial disclosure reports. What we found is that when Ayanna Pressley was elected to Congress back in 2018, she had a negative net worth. You fast forward to today, she's worth $1.3 million with assets worth up to $8 million. Now, that's a massive increase in just 6 years, especially for someone on a $174,000 congressional salary. It's impressive, really, but how did she do it? Well, part of its property in 2024, Pressley reported owning a Martha's Vineyard rental worth up to $5 million, as well as multiple Boston rentals worth up to $1 million each. Now, for context, back in 2019, she only reported owning one property in Boston. We're also learning days before Pressley was sworn into Congress, her husband quit his $92,000 annual Boston City Hall job to start his own consulting firm called Conan Harris and Associates. And as we read more of the Congresswoman's financial disclosure reports, we learn that her husband also saw his income jump while he was in Washington. His client list consists of some government organizations, including one with deep ties to the Obama Foundation. But as he started his firm and seeked new clients, he faced ethics concerns because of Pressley's job in Congress. Quote, as Harris's days dwindled in the city's Office of Public Safety, he used his city-issued email account to pitch Walsh's chief of staff on staying on as a consultant. City officials say they did not solicit nor accept the offer, and state ethics laws bar municipal employees from knowingly using official resources for personal gain. Now, we asked Pressley for comment, and we even invited her on. She did not answer. But Fox Business anchor David Asman joins me now. He's been looking over this information. And David, there's nothing wrong with gaining financial resources. We see this a lot in Congress, but there are questions.
Well, and
Man, listen. Ain't this starting to sound real familiar? Like, you can't make this up at this point. This whole Ayanna Pressley situation is like a carbon copy of what we saw with Ilhan Omar. I'm going to keep saying it. And some of these other so-called progressives in Congress. It's the exact same playbook, word for word, bar for bar. And the hustle always starts with the spouse. That's the key right there. These politicians get elected and then mysteriously their husband or their wife suddenly pops out with a brand new consulting firm or some political strategy business or some company nobody ever heard of before. And before you know it, boom, they start landing government contracts like hotcakes. All of a sudden, this regular degular spouse with no background in policy or business or anything related is now getting paid big bucks to consult. Like, come on, bro. That's like someone working at the DMV last week and now they get $1 million checks to advise the government on infrastructure. It doesn't make sense, but that's how they move through the side door. It's always indirect. Instead of getting rich themselves directly, they set it up so their spouse cashes in while they do public, I'm fighting for the people performance. So now their net worth starts skyrocketing out of nowhere. They come in Congress broke, and within a few years, they moving like venture capitalists. And what kills me is that they still got the nerve to hop on every mic they can find talking about we need to tax the rich and billionaires are the problem while becoming rich themselves. They say everyone else is greedy while they're getting greedy behind closed doors. Like, how you going to criticize wealth when you are building your own little empire off of government connections? This ain't socialism. This ain't public service. That's a finesse. And they out here running a whole game under the disguise of being for the people. But the only people that seem to benefit are them. So yeah, when you look at Ayanna and then you look at Ilhan, you start to realize this ain't no isolated situation. This is a pattern, a template. They ain't fighting a system. They figured it out. And now they eating off of it heavy while selling the rest of us dreams. Crazy how that works, huh?
you go back to the 1930s, the last when movies began. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I mean, it's happened for a long time. It happens in both the right and left. But what's so rich is that this is coming from anti-capitalist squad members. You know,
Yes.
people who spent their life denigrating our capitalist system and saying how bad it was. In fact,
Exactly.
Congresswoman Pressley came out with an ex-post just a year ago. She and her fellow squad members, of course, constantly condemn capitalism. But she says Donald Trump and Musk want big banks and bad actors to run rampant and take people for a ride. They want to pillage the government and make themselves rich. Well, she's the one who's been pillaging the government. Now, again, we're not suggesting she's going in and stealing funds or anything like that, but the fact that she got rich off of her contacts in government, her husband got rich consulting with members of the business community and others, perhaps some people who were taking grants. That's, by the way, we saw that with Lee Zeldin, the EPA commissioner. When he came in, he found out that right before Biden left office in December of 2024, he was spending billions of dollars. A lot of that money was going directly to friends, to acquaintances within the Democratic community that learned how to go in and write grants that would get accepted, making millions and millions of dollars, each one of them. So this has been going on for a while. I should mention that Pressley's kind of a poor gal next to her friend Ilhan Omar, because Ilhan Omar is worth up to $30 million right now, and she went from basically a flat negative, if not negative point when she came into Congress. She also has a husband who's a consultant. He was working with progressive leftists who, again, have this anti-capitalist creed, which they live and die by. But apparently, it's very easy to condemn capitalism when you're making millions of dollars. And of course, we have to mention the grand dam of all this, which is Miss Pelosi, who's worth about $275 million, at least $275 million, with her husband Paul, he's a good investor, but she's come to him, I'm sure, with excellent inside information that we're not allowed to trade on, but members of Congress still do. And there are certain trades that she and her husband made that clearly were based on information she was getting about credit card companies that were going to have a particular advantage that other companies didn't have. So this has got to stop. We've tried to stop it time and time again. Again, going back decades and decades, it never seems to work properly. Schweizer has done his best to try to come out with revealing stuff, but we're going to continue to investigate and put pressure on the politicians to stop this once and for all.
David asks.
So let's just go ahead and stop pretending for a second. They're not going to stop this. You know it. I know it. Democrats not stopping it. Republicans not stopping it. Why? Because they are doing it, bro. This ain't a left or versus right issue. This is a them versus us issue. Most of these folks walk into Congress broke as hell, like regular debt, paycheck to paycheck broke, and then bam. 3, 4 years, 5 years later, they popping up on the Forbes, millionaires, assets everywhere. That's why I say that it's a them versus us issue. Because how did that happen? What job pays $174,000 a year and turns you into a millionaire in just a few terms? That ain't hustle. That's abuse. That's straight up power abuse. And these people are literally using their position in government, the office they begged y'all to trust them with, to quietly run a play and enrich themselves and their families. And like, said before, the cheat code always runs through the spouse. Like, yo, how is that every time a politician gets elected, their husband or wife suddenly becomes a political consultant, an education expert, a small business strategist, all this stuff they never did before in their life? It's like these spouses got magic career switches, right? Magical career switches, and one snap of a finger or one flip, they are now qualified and competent to collect government checks. And these ain't little checks. We talking big money, grant money, contract money that's supposed to be going towards helping communities, getting resources to the people who actually need it. And where's that money going instead? Right back into the pockets of these political families. Literally, it's a whole scam with a suit and a flag on top. And here's what makes it even nastier. That's our money. Like literally our tax dollars. That's the money you lose out of your paycheck every 2 weeks, every week if it's a case, or however you get paid frequently. That's the money you pay when gas is high and groceries cost double. That's the bread we put into the system, trusting it's going to make our lives better. And these folks using it like it's their own private ATM. And the coldest part is the ones who scream the loudest about tax the rich, fight the billionaires, and eat the rich. They're the ones playing this game the hardest. They pretending to be against the elites while trying to become the elites. And they point fingers at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos while secretly taking the same steps to get the same lifestyle. It's performance art. It's cosplay activism at its finest, and they ain't fighting for the people. They just using the people as a ladder. So yeah, this ain't just politics. This is a rigged game. It's a private party, and regular folks like you and me, we not on the guest list. But guess who paid for the venue? We did. Every time you pay taxes, you fund their wealth. So hey, tell me what you guys think. Drop your comments down, your thoughts down in the comments below. Hit that like button. If you're tired of the lies, don't forget to subscribe, because over here we're breaking it down for real. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. I love you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.